Pat Mayo Experience Week 12 Waiver Wire Power Rankings and Recap. It was a good week for the Pat Mayo Experience. I'm not going to lie to you. If you were watching last week, you probably won a bunch of cash playing golf, whether it was on Draftkings, whether it was betting, hit a 90-to-1 winner, 20-to-1 winners. I got a whole bunch of people sending me screenshots of gigantic wins. Someone won 23 grand. Someone did a parlay with Austin Cook and John Rahm that was worth around $16,000, and that was on a $25 bet. That's not too shabby. Plus, some real high scores. Multiple people won GPPs this week in golf, so golf was a big success. And then on to football. I had one viewer send me the screenshot of them taking down a King of the Beach qualifying seat. That's worth over 10 grand. That's amazing. Siege didn't move on, unfortunately, but Jeff Bergerson, who was our guest on the golf show last week, got one of his as well. Won 70 grand playing Draftkings this week. It was unbelievable. It was the best week we've had all season, so expect disaster coming Thanksgiving week, which I do want to say we're going to have a special Thanksgiving show where we pick the games for Thanksgiving and do a complete DraftKings short slate breakdown with Ben Raza from fanvice.com. You can catch that later on a Monday night. But for now, a guy who, well, everything went right, put it that way, for week 11, except for one thing. And that person said that Nate Peterman would be awesome. That man, Tim Andergust.
Tim Andergust.
That is not my name.
Was that your bold prediction?
Yes, but online last night I explicitly took full responsibility for being wrong and hoped that perhaps we wouldn't have to talk about this.
Well, I mean, the number of people that watch this show are far more than your Twitter following, so the people need to know.
That's because you keep not giving up my real Twitter handle.
Yes, that's exactly why. That would be it.
Yes, I was wrong. I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm fired up for you guys having such a great week. I'm done. I'm going to start tailing your golf picks.
Oh, no. For fuck's sake, don't do that.
I'm done making my own picks. I
No.
can't get it right. You people are all cashing in. It's time for me to get on the gravy train.
Please don't do that. We need you to make your pick so we know who not to take, to cross those people off.
Choo-choo. I'm on the train.
Well, fortunately, the golf season is over.
That's all right. I won't forget this.
Oh, it was also brought to my attention this morning, weirdly enough, before I came into work, that one of our friends, Oily Stoily, sent me a thing. He asked me if we had a bet that I bet you that the Jags would win more games than the Titans this year, and then I went back and looked at it, and we do. You gave me plus 350 odds.
That was smart of me. I mean, that's going to come down to the last game of the season, so it's annoying that it's 3-to-1 odds on that, or 3.5-to-1 odds, but whatever.
But still, that's just another one that's currently leaning in my favor right now.
Yes, it is. Although, if Ajayi keeps breaking off huge runs week after week, I'll mitigate a lot of my losses in that bet.
What do you have, 70 yards yesterday?
I had more than that.
Many more?
Not many more, no, but he had quite a few.
Considering he played 13 snaps yesterday, I don't know. He had 91 rushing yards.
That's fine. If he gets me 91 the rest of the year, that will at least per week. That'll at least diminish some of my losses.
Not really. No, not all that much.
Well, yes, really.
Well, there's six. There's 6 games left. So he can't even get to 100 fucking yards. Yeah, he's gonna bring you back to the 1,500 mark. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, he's not gonna get close to that. He's just gonna.
Maybe he can get to 1,000. Maybe.
Our friend Oily Stoily lost one of the worst pro lines I've ever seen yesterday.
Well, that's what you get for playing pro line. You're a moron if you play pro line. That's pretty simple.
He would have won if Tampa didn't. Well, to be fair, it's the bad.
I don't care. He lost the moment he signed up to play.
That's a bad beat.
It's not a bad beat. The bad beat is playing it's like playing the lottery. Like, what do you expect?
Hey, people win the lottery.
Do they? Do you know anyone who's ever won the lottery?
No.
Exactly. Any other thoughts you have besides cursing poor Nate Peterman's career? He's never going to play again.
Well, I mean, listen. I mean, I will accept without reservation I was wrong. I assumed that the Bills coaching staff, who deserved maybe the benefit of the doubt, saw some Coruscant play from him or something and thought it was worthwhile to give him a chance over Tyrod Taylor. I mean, I think that the narrative on, Taylor's such an excellent quarterback has actually shifted way too far now the other direction, where people seem to think he's like Drew Brees incarnate. That isn't true either. But the Bills have to belly up to the bar and explain themselves, because that kid looked terrible against a Chargers defense, which is good, but it ain't great. It's just all right. And they absolutely disassembled him. So I was dead wrong. when you're right 53% of the time, you're wrong the other 47.
You're not close to being right 53% of the time.
Well, my spread picks, like, to that point had been almost exactly that number, so that's why.
Yeah, I mean, your overall spread picks that's fine on one thing, and then I look at the Super 7, you're batting like 41%.
Well, yeah.
Especially the weeks that you make the picks.
I went 5-2 last week.
Yeah, so. And how'd you do the other weeks?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rough. What can I tell you? It is what it is.
Oh, another thing that did work out well for viewers of the show is that when we were doing our game picks on Thursday, I gave out the anti-cussed money line parlay. Cash right away, never in doubt.
It's deeply unfortunate for. Well, I mean, I'm happy for the people who won money. Good for them, but it's annoying that happened.
Yeah, the Ravens and Texans. That's what you get for super locking in the pack. Is that your worst super lock of the year? Packers plus 2?
No, I don't know. It might be. I also if it's not my worst, it's either second or third. That wasn't good. I just had a feeling that the Packers were going to compete, and it looked like early in the game they were going to, and then they just sort of threw themselves out of the game.
You should have jumped on with Feinberg and I. We went straight Philly. That was the move.
That Baltimore team is you can't get a handle on them. They've been shut out, and then I think they've shut out 3 other teams. Like, who knows what that team's up to?
Yeah, but at least you know where the Packers are coming from.
Well, they had come off a win on the road last week in division.
They're excellent. They're just the best team in football.
Well, but the Ravens aren't good either. So I was like, well, anything could happen in that game, and I just thought I was getting value. Obviously, I was wrong. I can accept when I'm wrong, and I was wrong.
See, the weeks where you're tremendously wrong turns out really well for everybody else.
Well, I'm glad that somebody is profiting off my poor augury.
All right. Anything else you want to takeaways you had from Week 11?
It was a fun week. I think tonight's game could be fun, and I'm sure it'll be better than whatever garbage we're going to get next week.
Why? Why? Because this week was just so great.
Well, we have like a Thanksgiving game between the Redskins and Giants. Like, no one's watching that.
See, generally speaking, people watch the Thanksgiving Day games.
Usually they do, but no one's going to watch no one wants to watch the Giants. I just think that's just unfortunate that that's the game they picked for primetime.
The Giants coming off a win.
They are, and I mean that game did not surprise me. That more or less went to script. For me, anyway,
that went to script because there was 40-mile-per-hour winds.
Well, that helped, but I mean, I figured it was.
But when you made the pick, you didn't know that at the time.
Well, no, I didn't proclaim to know. I just felt like it was going to be a close game that the Chiefs were just not going to be ready for.
I mean, they were ready. They had Travis Kelce throwing bombs in the game. They were more than ready.
Yeah, they have almost as many interceptions from players not named Alex Smith than Alex Smith.
Well, who has the other one? Does Tyreek Hill have one?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill threw one as well. I think the Raiders also failed to intercept Brady yesterday, which is now 10 straight weeks they do not have an interception.
Well, I mean, and Brady doesn't throw many picks to begin with, so it was.
But nevertheless,
it was a tough spot for them.
It is, but that's still incredible. Like, in the technical sense of that word, it's not credible that it's happening.
I guess so. Ryan Forbes continues to bring this to the attention of everyone, and just a great service by him. Since you tweeted, I am now convinced, yes, if you can get Hunt for Le'Veon Bell, you're getting the better player. You tweeted that September 24th. He has not scored a touchdown since.
I'm aware.
How's that? I mean, the curse is in full force right now. I can't wait for the end of the year. The most cursed. There's a lot of good candidates for most cursed.
I mean, Hunt and Bell are pretty darn close when it comes to rushing yards and stuff, but obviously the lack of touchdowns is killing him in fantasy.
How many receptions and receiving yards is he behind Bell now?
That I do not know.
Well, considering that, I mean, Le'Veon Bell had 9 catches Thursday night. That might be the entire total that Kareem Hunt has over that stretch of like
Hunt
8
has
games.
35 catches this season.
Okay.
And Bell has 49 catches this season.
Okay.
So
how many have come in the last 6 weeks?
Most of those catches for Bell have come recently. And
how many of the Hunt ones have come recently?
Well, actually, Bell has only had really one good catching game. He's had 9 and 5. Other than that, it's been sort of mediocre. Other than that, they've been relatively equal. It's the one big game from Bell, though, that's really made the difference. But whatever. Bell's having the better year. One of the very few calls I did get right is that Brown is clearly the player to own in that offense. And next year, no matter who's healthy, Antonio Brown has got to be your number 1 in fantasy next year. It's malpractice not to take him first overall next year.
Why are you trying to kill Antonio Brown?
because he's quickly becoming like the third or fourth best receiver of our lifetime.
Oh my God, he's gonna go into like anaphylactic shock here. He's gonna
No.
get stung by a bee, and it's gonna be the end of his career.
No, but nevertheless, Bell has played great. I was wrong. Clearly, Hunt has not been better than Bell. It's been closer than people might have thought, but Bell's been better, and that's just how it is. I accept that.
Has it been better than people may have thought, considering you said he was going to be better and he hasn't been?
Well, to start the year, I mean, people didn't think.
Well, you said it after the guy was the #1 player in fantasy by far.
He's
and
keeping
then,
his
now he's been awful.
Well, awful's a stretch. He's still rushing pretty effectively.
Is he?
Yeah, 87, 73, 46. Like, okay, 46 not very good, but that was against Denver in a weird game. I don't know. He's been okay. He hasn't been as good as he's been. I mean, again, I'm not really trying to make a defense of myself here. I was wrong.
Yeah, but you have to admit that you cursed him, and this is the reason that it's happening.
No, I will not do that. I will say Terry.
Well, so you just don't want to take responsibility for anything, do you?
I'm not taking responsibility.
You should take responsibility for it.
Who I have no control over. No, that's madness.
It's not madness. It's facts, and you just refuse to acknowledge them.
I take no responsibility.
Kareem Hunt still, the best thing is Kareem Hunt has still outscored Le'Veon Bell this year on the whole. That's how bad he's been over the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, that's how good he was. Let's see, 45, 25, 25, 16, then you cursed him, 14, 16, 15, 9, 10, 10. Sick weeks.
Well, they're not brutal weeks, but they're not sick.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt, dead after week 4 of the fantasy football season. Let's move to the waiver wire running backs, and we have a fish on the line. If you want to spend all your fab bucks, Samaje Perine is the last man standing in Washington. So I am advocating that everyone go out and spend all their fab money if they haven't, and go get him if he's still available. You can wait for someone who's potentially more talented who falls into a similar situation, but that just might not happen, and we're getting towards the end of the fantasy football season. You need a running back. I mean, is Perine going to be a top 10 running back? No, probably not. He has a chance, I suppose, because he's going to get so much volume. He's going to receive. He's going to end up getting all the goal line touches. He's going to probably get over 20 touches a week. I mean, that's a situation you want to get involved with, and I just don't know if it's going to happen for anyone else. Like, there are very few situations where that could happen, and it wouldn't be a split. But what do you think? Do you think this is the spot?
Yeah, because this may be the last time that a player that can get legit carries is available. So, yeah, I don't think Perine's any good, actually, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, you have to strike while the iron's hot. And even if you don't need a running back, if you're, in a fight for the playoffs, I would advise emptying your coffers and buying him to prevent another team in your league from getting him, because this may be the very last, no question about it, running back who's going to get a ton of volume. And if you just say, oh, well, I've got running backs, I don't need to spend that money, and you let an opponent nab him and he eats you with it, then you have to wear that. So whether you need a running back or not, I would advocate using your waiver priority or spending your money on grabbing him.
Yeah, well, waiver priority for sure. But I feel like people run through that most weeks. No one's really hoarding the #1 waiver priority.
Well, but for people where money is not relevant because they don't have fab bucks, I say that. But if you have money, yeah, empty the coffers. It's time.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. Even if you have running backs, you can never have too many top 20 running backs on your team. So I guarantee you there are very few teams out there that he wouldn't be an upgrade over one of your running backs, whether it be a starter or a bench guy. Like
Sure,
if you went and picked up like Rex Burkhead last week, you can drop him for Samaje Perine.
Yes, of course.
All right, so #2 on that list is where things get interesting. There's a huge gap. Almost to mimic one of your lists, I should have put #2 as gap, because it's Perine.
And someone could have asked you, what does gap mean? It happens all the time. Come on, people. Be literate.
So Perine's #1, then there's a big drop-off, and then it's sort of a preference of what goes on. I have Devontae Booker at #2. I know the Broncos' offense isn't very good, but when you look at the snap counts from yesterday, Devontae Booker played over 70% of the Broncos' snaps. He was the one who got involved in the passing game. I know that C.J. Anderson had the touchdown, but he also had a crippling fumble that basically took him out. Jamal Charles just didn't do anything. He was barely on the field the entire time. Now, I don't think that Booker is going to end up playing 73% of the snaps every week, but if he can hover in that like 60 to 65 range, I think there's going to be enough work for him to make him viable every single week, and I think I'd rather have him than CJ Anderson the rest of the season. Plus, the Broncos' schedule begins to lighten up after last week. So the rest of the season, they go Oakland, Miami, your Jumbo Jets, Indianapolis, and Washington to close the year. I mean, if Booker can get 65% of Denver snaps, even in a bad offense, in those matchups, he's going to be a top 25 running back in PPR, and I don't think that people are going to be treating him that way.
I mean, we're in violent agreement again. I buy everything you're selling there.
So trade for CJ Anderson is probably the actual right move now?
No, I mean, CJ Anderson's okay. Like, he's a low-term flex, I think, in leagues, but I think Booker's probably better, and he's going to get more volume, I think. I've been thinking that for a while. I just think C.J. Anderson's yesterday's man, and Booker is the future of the running back position for them. So they should be giving him the ball more often to get some looks at him. So I like Booker pretty decently.
I actually have sort of similar sentiments about someone else on this list. So at number 3, Danny Woodhead is there. He returned.
I disagree with this completely.
Well, put it this way. He played 13 snaps, and he had 6 targets on his 13 snaps, 2 of which came in the red zone. He's only going to get more involved. And to your point about the Ravens, the only reason that Alex Collins was on the field so much yesterday is because they were winning by 16-0 and 10-0 and 23-0. When they're not winning like that, he's not going to be on the field. Danny Woodhead is.
It took a while for the score to get like that and out of hand. So, I mean, I don't know if I buy that logic all that much, to be honest with you. Listen, Woodhead is okay. He had 1 carry yesterday, and he had...
No one is playing him for his rushing prowess.
He had 5 catches. Like, I think that's about upside for him. Maybe gets a touchdown.
He played 13 snaps!
I don't think he's going to play a whole lot more than...
Really?
He can't more than 13 snaps.
I mean, you're one who likes to wager. Would you like to wager on this?
He's made of plasticine. He's made of porcelain. He gets broken. He gets hurt all the time. He can't play more than 13, 14, 15 snaps a game, or he won't last. I understand the allure of Danny Woodhead. Everyone's been down that road. He gets hurt too often. You don't need the aggravation. He's not worth it. Next.
Danny Woodhead is free at the moment. Danny Woodhead is going to be a start basically every single week in a PPR league. And the only weeks that he really lets you down are the weeks that he gets hurt. And even in those weeks, he usually does enough to give you a good score anyway.
He should be free. That's his value.
There is. So I should move Danny Woodhead to number 1 on this list because you're clearly
Go ahead. I have no
way off of him here.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with him. I think he's a pig in a poke.
What does that mean?
Just somebody who seems like he's an interesting player, that somebody who thinks that he's relevant, but in the end, it's a deception.
So the guy that's going to finish inside the top 5 in running back receptions every single week is a deception. He's a poked bear.
Yeah, picking a poke is a trick, right? And that's what he is.
That sounds like you.
You think he's going to be really good. You think you know what you bought, but actually his true value is far less than that.
His true value is a running back 2 in a PPR league. That's what he is. He's better. He's better James White.
If he could stay healthy, I wouldn't disagree.
He's healthy right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So here's a quick tip for you. In the weeks where he's injured and on IR, don't play him. Doesn't that seem sensible?
Go ahead. I mean, listen, you're not going to change your mind. I'm not going to change my mind. I think he's not all that relevant going forward. You think he is. You're the expert, not me, so people should listen to you, not me.
Smart move on their part. Number 4, Damian Williams comes in, then it's Rex Burkhead, and then your guy, Elijah McGuire. And the only reason that I have him here is because...
No Forte. Well, Lizzie. It's his turn.
Well, and that's sort of the thing. We don't know what the status on Forte is because the Jets were on bye week, and therefore there hasn't been any sort of injury updates on them. But Matt Forte was dealing with knee swelling before the bye, obviously missed that game. Now he had the off week, but the reports were that he was going to miss multiple games because the knee had been bothering him all season long. And what did we see 2 weeks ago? We all thought that Powell was just in a spot where he was going to get the ball all the time. And, well, he did outcarry Elijah McGuire in that game. McGuire played 52% of the backfield snaps. He was the one who was involved in the receiving game, and with the Jets basically out of it now. I mean, they're not officially.
They're a game out of the. They're 1 game in the loss column back of the playoffs.
You told me that anyone with their record had no chance of making the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to. I do not think they're going to make it.
No, you said that anyone who had the record could not make the playoffs.
I don't think they're going to make it. No, I don't. I wouldn't pick them to make it.
Well, now it's that you don't think that they're going to make it. It's absolutely true that no one's going to make it with that record.
just because they're completely out, just because they're not going to make it, doesn't mean they're completely out of it. I mean, one could theoretically imagine them making it. Just playing around with the ESPN playoff machine last night and got them there many times. But that doesn't mean that they're going to make it. I mean, I think the Ravens have a significant inside track, but that doesn't mean that the Jets couldn't make it. It's just I don't think they're going to.
Oh, you got to watch out for the Chargers, too.
No, I'm not going to. I will be surprised if the Chargers win third. I think Chargers cannot be trusted. I'm sorry.
I see. If you're anti-Chargers, time to get on the Chargers now, people. Get on them now.
We play them Christmas Eve. We will put them to the sword if they're not done by then.
Anyway, in that backfield, I would expect to see more Elijah McGuire moving forward to see what they have, because obviously Bilal Powell's 29 now. He's a free agent at the end of the year. You might as well see what you have with this guy.
I agree.
And do you need to go draft a running back? Do you need to go sign a running back, or can you rely on Elijah McGuire? And I don't think that he's great. That's why I have number 6 on the list, but he does have the potential to get some opportunity. Like Marlon Mack is number 7, and he's kind of in the same boat too. He's getting more opportunity right now. He's playing around 45% of the snaps with the Colts, and I can see that flipping by the end of the season, but I think that there is a chance that McGuire takes over this backfield if Forte is out for an extended period of time. If he plays well this week, and he just kind of runs with it.
I'm in complete agreement with that.
And I got him in our keeper league.
And for that reason, I'd actually have him ahead of Burkhead. I trust him more than Burkhead. Burkhead has to fight 3 or 4 other mouths. McGuire only really has to fight with 1. I think I'd flip those 2.
I think it depends on what you want them for. Like, if you pick up Elijah McGuire, you're not starting him this week. You could start Rex Burkhead.
I don't know. I think you actually could in a deep league flex McGuire. I actually wouldn't object to that.
Okay, let's say you had both.
I think I'd play McGuire, actually. To be honest with you, I would.
All right. So start Rex this week over Elijah McGuire.
I like Rex. I'm not opposed to Rex Burkhead. I just think the opportunity chances are greater for Mr. McGuire.
Not to score touchdowns.
I mean, the Jets don't score touchdowns anymore.
Exactly. That's why playing in the Patriots offense would be a bigger boon to that.
Fair enough. Okay.
Number 8, Austin Eckler, who shouldn't have been involved at all yesterday, but was because the Chargers started playing the junior varsity team, and he started getting involved. But he's a clear handcuff to Melvin Gordon. He's number 8. Rod Smith, number 9. Then Thomas Rawls. Then you get into your number 11 is James Conner. I just wanted to point him out for a second because he touches the ball every time he's on the field. He gets a rush. So he plays a limited amount of snaps, but every time he's on the field, they give him the ball. I feel like this is setting up for a playoff trick play. That's going to be the tape on them. They're going to see, oh, James Conner's on the field. He's definitely going to get the ball. They're going to overcommit to a play action. Someone's going to be wide open down the field, and that's how the Steelers are going to win a playoff game.
Well, let's put a pin in that. I think that's actually, I hadn't thought of that. That's actually a very good thought.
Well, it makes no sense. Like, why do you do the same thing with the same guy every time he's on the field? Like,
well, but you're also assuming that people have a clue what they're doing.
You know, listen, I watched Remember the Titans. If they were breaking down game film, whenever that was, in Virginia, I think NFL teams might be doing it too.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that they quite know what they're like. James Conner just might be used all the time because it's like him. Who knows? I mean, I hope you're right. I think that would be a pretty good call for you. I'm hoping that you're right. But
wide receivers. Actually, we should probably talk about some injuries at the position, too. Matt Forte is out. Donta Foreman blew out his Achilles, scoring a second touchdown of the game. What does that mean? Well, Lamar Miller gets more concentrated work and a higher volume of snap count, but Alfred Blue should be activated, and then he'll become the handcuff to Lamar Miller moving forward. You said that if there was one start in DFS this week, it was Adrian Peterson. Good call.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
One of those tremendous 1.8 yards per carry games.
Yeah, I mean, it made all the logical sense in the world.
No, did it though? Because what did I tell you about Adrian Peterson and when you should play him?
I know you said about being favored, but these two teams are garbage, and I just thought the extra days of rest would be relevant, and it wasn't. So I was wrong. Again, I'm not afraid to admit I'm wrong. I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it or make up for it. I was wrong. I can accept I'm wrong. I keep my head high, and I keep making predictions.
2 guys that were healthy scratches yesterday. Darren McFadden is one of them, and I still can't figure out.
You should just cut him now.
I agree, but
yeah,
why are
still has him? Cut
him. They pay him $1 million a year, and he only has $200,000 of dead cap space. Like, why do they still have him on the team?
They don't know what they're doing. The correct answer to most questions in life is incompetence. That's why conspiracy theories 99% of the time are BS, because you're looking for logic and patterns to things when just sheer, simple incompetence is the answer to almost all of your questions.
See, I always like that with the 9/11 truthers who think it's a conspiracy, and it's like, oh, the Bush administration was the most corrupt and incompetent administration in the world. Yet they were somehow able to convince like the 5,000 people to keep quiet who would need to know about this being a cover-up. Like those two trains of logic don't make sense.
Yeah, well, this is precisely. Oh, you know, they couldn't organize the Iraq invasion, for heaven's sake, and win the peace there. You really think they're going to be able to run a home? It's just so insane. But of course, the very fact you said that means you're probably on the payroll too of the neocon conspiracy. So you're just out here spinning for them anyway.
Listen, the only thing that I'm on the take for is flat Earth, because that's definitely true. We all know that to be fact. You people are just lying to yourselves if you don't believe it.
You ever been to Antarctica?
You ever been to space?
It's like, yeah, exactly.
The other guy who was a healthy scratch was Andre Ellington for some reason. I didn't hear anything why he was a healthy scratch, but he was not active for that game against the Texans. And, you know, when they had to pass a lot, they probably could have used him.
I don't know what they're doing.
Maybe they're actively trying to tank.
I don't think they are trying to tank. I just think they're not that good. I mean, they signed Larry Fitz to an extension of a contract. Right? I think they are trying to win, but it doesn't matter. Are they just got their quarterback? They're hooked.
Are they just going to run it back with Carson Palmer again next year?
I think they have to. I think the cap hit of cutting him is too great. I think they actually have to just eat it and try to run him back.
Unless they go, they could draft someone in the first round.
Well, that's right. They could still draft somebody in the first round and give him a year behind Carson Palmer. That would make all the sense in the world.
Or just start that guy.
You could ease him into the job the same way that Eli was eased in with Kurt Warner as a starter in New York.
Yeah, that would make sense too. They don't do that too often anymore.
They don't, but that happened to be a very good strategy. And so, heaven forbid we actually employ strategies that worked in the past. Unless it's something.
Was it a good strategy? Eli won 2 Super Bowls because they had an awesome defensive line.
And they've made multiple playoff appearances. Like he's had a fantastic career.
Basically, any year that the Giants haven't had a top 5 defense, Eli has been brutal.
Okay, well, I mean that's probably true of almost any player that their team has greater success when their defense is top 5 than when it isn't. Like Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl in Indianapolis because his defense played unbelievably amazing in a playoff run.
But the Colts weren't trash every other year.
No, that's true. But like Brady,
so that's sort of the point.
Most of his
Peyton was good all those other years. He was winning MVPs, and he's another guy started from day one.
2 of Brady's, maybe not 3 of Brady's first 3 Super Bowls are due to the fact mostly of their defense, not their offense. But we don't hold that against him, and we shouldn't.
What about the last 2 Super Bowls where they had like a bottom 5 defense and they still won the Super Bowl?
I said 3 of the first 3. I didn't mention the last 2.
Oh yeah, so those ones don't matter.
So I said I don't hold those against him. I don't hold that.
But you're specifically gearing your stat to make it seem like you are holding it against him.
Okay, well I'm not. I have been nothing but laudatory of that team this year.
That's the thing. That's been probably the biggest reverse curse in the world because you're trying to actively reverse curse the Patriots, but everyone knows that you're doing it, so it's not working.
I am not doing that. I don't believe
you can't even say that without having a gig fit to yourself.
Well, it's just insane that people think that I'm engaged in some sort of dark art sorcery, and I'm not.
You are. Everyone knows that you are.
Like I've got a Brady voodoo doll.
People were so upset that you said that the Eagles were going to win the Super Bowl.
Well, but I've been saying that for weeks. Like those people have not been tuning in.
Yeah, you've been saying it for weeks after you got off Kansas City, after you ruined Kansas City's season.
I didn't. So what? I'm done with them now. Put them in the ash heap of history.
So now we're gonna have a revitalization of the Kansas City Chiefs?
No, they're not that great. They probably have to win their division because there's no one else who can really legitimately challenge them. But you know, whatever. They're gonna go out in the first round, maybe to Jacksonville or something.
Yo, now you think that Jacksonville is going to beat Kansas City in the first round? They would never play each other.
I shouldn't say that because it could be that Jacksonville's hosts a playoff game as well.
Yeah, they're going to win the division. I'm going to win all the monies.
They might win the division. I think the odds
are money, my man, is what you get when you bet on the Jags.
Tennessee beats them at home. The Jags basically don't have a path in to the division.
Well, if Tennessee beats them at home, then they're tied for the division lead.
And Tennessee has the tiebreak.
Great. So if they finish tied, that'll be one thing. Jags will just win more games. Even if they lose to Tennessee, they'll still end up winning more games.
Jags are going to lose to Arizona this week.
Tennessee is hot trash, by the way.
Yeah, but so is Jacksonville. They won 2 weeks ago on a blocked field goal that still went through the uprights, and this week fought tooth and nail against a terrible Browns team.
Okay, so they were never in danger. No, stop for a second. They were never in danger of losing to the Browns yesterday. It was
10-7, and the Browns had the ball and were moving it. And
how well did they move it? They moved it right to the Jags. Yeah, thanks. And then, but when you were claiming that Tennessee was going to be a Super Bowl team, the fact that they went to overtime with Cleveland was just a gritty win by Tennessee.
I didn't say
that's what you said.
I didn't say it was a gritty win. I said it was a win and good for them. But so we can criticize Tennessee then for their.
No, I just want it to be the same standards. And there was no chance of the Jags losing that game. There was a chance.
But there was every chance.
There wasn't a chance because they have fucking Kaiser as their quarterback. And he's brutal. He actually did help us out by getting Jacksonville to the cover. That was very nice of him.
That's such a garbage.
He's so bad.
If you had Browns plus 7.5, you have my heart. Because that is a bad
No, that is absolutely not true because they should have covered 2 plays before it when Kaiser fumbled.
Bad beat. The Browns were the right side of that game.
Are you going to claim that as one of your 53% of the wins, the Browns cover?
No, it wasn't a win, but it was the right side.
But, I mean, if you're claiming that you're getting 53% of predictions correct, then I think you're counting losses, but you feel like you won them.
The Browns are getting closer. They're going to win real soon.
Poor Browns. Going to go 0-16 now. Who do they have left? Who are they going to beat?
The Bengals next week. They could beat them.
I don't think so.
Bengals. They play the Ravens again. The Ravens aren't that good.
They're one win that you can circle that they could have.
The win is coming. The win is coming in 2 weeks at Chargers.
I was going to say.
Just like last year.
At home against the Packers seems far more sensible.
At home against the Packers is an option. At the Chargers does seem like the sort of game the Chargers would lose in their playoff run. Bengals, Bears, Steelers, no. Unless the Steelers have nothing to play for and they've got the 1 seed locked up, they'll probably have to play that game out. So,
well, here's the thing. Hugh Jackson is winless on Sundays as coach of the Cleveland Browns.
I heard that. His only win is on a Saturday.
And the rest of their games are on a Sunday.
Isn't that pathetic? I mean, he'll survive to the end of the year. But
no, he won't. He'll survive the end of the year, but he's not back next year.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he'll be fired on New Year's Day. He has to be.
And he's going to make an excellent offensive coordinator for, like, the Bills next year.
Yeah, or the Jets. We could use him.
Yeah, but they have Todd Bowles. He's great.
Yeah, Todd Bowles is not an offensive guy. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Who is their
offensive? Of course, they gave us a bye. I'll complain about this on the Thursday show. I'll let it go.
Well, I mean, yesterday, again, almost to your point where you don't like to call for people to be fired or anything like that, you called for Doug McDermott or Sean McDermott to be fired yesterday.
I did not call for him to be fired. I actually don't care what the Bills do. I'm saying it's justifiable to fire him if he threw away a chance for this team to make the playoffs for the first time in 18 years for no apparent reason. Like, again, I said, I think some people are obsessed about how great Tyrod is. He's not great, but he's clearly better than Peterman. And if the Bills set a chance to go to the playoffs for the first time in 2 decades on fire for no discernible reason, there is some explaining to do.
Some splaining?
There is. Like, the Bills had every chance to be the leader in the playoff hunt, and they set off a game on fire. They couldn't afford to do that.
So if you ran a company, you'd be out of business very quickly because all you would do is fire people and have to pay them severance.
No, I would just hire the best people.
That would be your move. But, I mean, Trump tried that, but then he fired a whole bunch of them, so they weren't the best.
Well, actually, in real life, he doesn't actually like to fire people at all.
Well,
he just did it on the show a lot.
He loves firing. He's like Vince McMahon loves, you're fired. Wide receivers. Number one, I have Josh Doxson, followed by Corey Coleman, Kenny Stills, Marquise Goodwin, Corey Davis, Danny Amendola, who suffered dehydration yesterday, which means if he was 19 and in Hollywood, that means he would be going to rehab, but who knows?
He was 7,000 feet above sea level. Cut him some slack.
Alan Hearns.
Drink the water in Mexico. Of course he was dehydrated.
Alan Hearns is number 7. He should return from his ankle injury. Obviously, if he doesn't, you can bump him down the list and move D.D. Westbrook up. Paul Richardson, 8. Bruce Ellington, assuming Will Fuller is still out, is number 9. And then D.D. Westbrook at number 10. Zay Jones, I have at number 11, only because Kelvin Benjamin's injury did not look good. He could be out for a while. And Jordan Matthews didn't play with a knee injury. He's kind of last man standing along with Deontay Thompson right now. They combined for 15 targets yesterday, and I, weirdly enough, have more faith in Zay Jones than I do in Deontay Thompson. So neither of them are good ads, but if you need someone in a deep league, they're probably available. But Doxson, Coleman, and then if Matt Moore starts for the Dolphins, you can play Kenny Stills. I'm interested to see if Garoppolo plays, if Marquise Goodwin or Aldrick Robinson turns out to be pretty good.
Yeah, I saw you. We'll get to when you have quarterbacks. You have Garoppolo in there as a play. Has the 49ers announced he's going to play?
No.
I haven't read that.
I mean, that was always the assumption was that he was going to start week 12 because they got him. He could learn the playbook. They had the bye week. Coming out of the bye week, you could use him. I don't know if he's there's no word that he's going to start or not, but I would think that he starts.
I'm totally willing to buy that, but I just hadn't heard it. Yeah, I mean, I think I would flip Doxson and Coleman just because I trust Coleman more, but we don't have to fight too much about it. I mean, you like Doxson, where Doxson's been really good too, so well, that's been recently, so that's fine.
I think it comes down to the difference between Doxson and Coleman right now is that Coleman plays in the Browns offense who don't score, and Doxson, although he has more people to fend off in that offense, now that they don't have Chris Thompson, it should actually open up more opportunities for some of the receivers, especially on shorter routes. And I expect Washington to score points, and I don't expect the Browns to score points. So the overall upside would lay with Josh Doxson.
Hate to see Chris Thompson get hurt like that. I was hyping him. I was out watching the games.
I know. I got a text immediately that you were hyping Chris Thompson. The next thing you know, he broke his leg.
That was deeply unfortunate. Oh, well.
It's a very uninspiring week at the wide receiver pickups. Like
it certainly is.
I would feel like in most leagues, these guys are owned. I mean, they're not because I looked at the ownership percentages, and Doxson's available in like 70% of leagues, which is crazy. But that's
I don't know why Tennessee doesn't feed Corey Davis the ball more often. They should.
He had 7 targets Thursday night. He
should get more than that. Like he was their 5th overall pick. Like
yeah, but Rashard Matthews is good though.
He is, but I just think I don't know. I just feel like Corey Davis. I know was hurt, but I'd like to see them use him more. But I think I like him better than Goodwin. But again, it's very, very close. So it is a very uninspired week.
Well, Goodwin's pretty good for one thing. I mean, and now if Garoppolo can come in and be like, all right, because Beathard isn't, that maybe some of the targets that he gets actually translate into catches.
Yeah. Can we talk about number 16? Because I think I'd pick him up in a league I was in.
You would pick up Josh Gordon?
Why not?
Because why not? You probably need... I would rather start preparing... Like, if I was in the playoff push right now, I think I would start preparing for picking up handcuffs, strategically picking up defenses for the playoffs, that sort of thing, over picking up Josh Gordon.
I don't know about that. I think he's almost like a handcuff for your receivers in that.
Why though? Because there's no guarantee. Listen, I've played the Josh Gordon waiting game before. I was the captain of that boat. It's not worth it. Next year, just wait till next year.
I get that completely, but like he's so incredibly skilled that you don't start him the first week he plays, but he could play this week. He probably won't, but even if he does, if he looks great, then he's an immediate plug-in.
I believe he's not eligible to play until the first week of December.
The 24th, I thought, which is this week.
Are you sure about that?
Almost 100% certain that they said he was eligible to return as of the 24th. Now, he may not return this week because he hasn't played and he's been suspended and he probably can't come back to the team yet. And then be a part. Yeah, it says Gordon can rejoin Brown teammates Monday. So
does that mean he can practice or he can play?
He can practice starting Wednesday.
Okay, the NFL has reinstated Josh Gordon. I got it right here. The NFL has reinstated Josh Gordon on a conditional basis, and he is eligible to play in Week 13.
Okay, so I would pick him up this week, though.
I think that's a waste of a bench spot. And this is coming from someone. And this is coming from someone who stashed Darren McFadden in most leagues all season long. But like now we're to the point where get handcuffs, get defenses, like start preparing your team to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree, but I think he's almost like a handcuff for your receiver in that.
But he plays on the shittiest team in the league with the shittiest quarterback.
That has always been thus, and he was productive. So, I know, but you figure that the coaching staff of the Browns want to desperately try to win. He gives them a really good chance to win if he is good. It will not shock me whatsoever if Josh Gordon is the decisive factor on fantasy championships this season. I really believe that.
I really don't. Even if he comes back, he's probably not going to play a full complement of snaps, at least right away. Like, I just don't. What situation do you put yourself in? So that's week 13. So let's say he has a bad week 13. Now you're into week 14. Just stop. Let's say he has a bad week 13. Doesn't do much, plays a very limited amount of snaps. Now he's on your team and it's week 14. Are you playing him in the first round of the playoffs? No.
No. But if he plays well in week 13 or shows flashes of brilliance in week 13, then yes, I would roll the dice with him because I could get 30 points out of this guy.
I feel like the situation that you're talking about is like a 5% chance of happening.
I don't know. I feel it's like a little likelier, but okay. I mean, I understand the significant. What you're saying is all perfectly logical. I'm just saying, if in most leagues there are guys on your bench that you really don't need to have there, he's somebody I would consider. I think he's a little too low for me. If I had to pick between him and I don't know, Jermaine Kearse. Much as I'm a fan of Jermaine Kearse, I would want Gordon. That's my personal opinion.
You can actually play Jermaine. You have Jermaine Kearse on your team.
Yeah, but my team is not an avatar for good management.
Yeah, but he's been your best player.
That's not true.
Who's been your best player?
That's a good question. I suspect my best player before the last couple of weeks had been Brait or had been Riddick, which tells you how terrible my team is. But Cohen put a touchdown up. You know, Cohen looked good again yesterday. Cohen continues to prove he's a real talented back. So we're going to move along.
How many points did he have even with the touchdown?
10 or 11. Whatever. Laugh all you want.
I will, because I got Devin Funches out of it.
Yeah, whatever.
Hey, I've had Devin Funches for one game. He scored 2 touchdowns.
I watched it. It was annoying.
Tight ends. I have Greg Olsen at number 1. He's still available in 60% of leagues. He's coming back this week. He is a probably top 5 tight end, so you might want to pick him up if he's still available.
I know they say he's going to play this week, but like he was calling a football game for Fox this week. He was not practicing or getting ready. I actually don't think he'll play this week.
They were on a bye week.
What?
They were on a bye week.
I know they were on a bye week, but like you think he'd be getting ready to come back and practice, that he's spending his week calling a game for Fox? Like, you may be right. Maybe he will play, but boy, I would say that doesn't seem like somebody who was dedicating himself to getting himself in peak condition to return for a team that could very well make a deep run in the playoffs by calling a game for Fox. It's just, I don't know that I liked that if I was a Greg Olsen owner.
So you like Josh Gordon, but you don't like Greg Olsen.
Well, but Greg Olsen,
they're both free right now.
One, of course, you would rather Olsen. That's not even a debate. I'm just saying, for this coming week, I'm a little bit cooler on Olsen than I might be on Davis, for example.
Sure. If Greg Olsen is available, you pick him up right now. If he plays this week, play him. If he doesn't play this week, don't play him. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I just think that we should temper our expectations from this week. I don't think they're going to be great.
Okay. Greg Olsen, Vernon Davis, George Kittle Me Timbers should be back this week with Garoppolo. Eric Ebron, CJ Fedorowicz, Austin Hoopa over Julius Thomas because, he has more points. That only makes sense. OJ Howard, Seth the Valve. 2 guys down at the bottom for super deep leagues. If you're looking for anyone to garner some targets, Adam Shaheen has been filling in for Deion Sims on the Bears. He and Mitch Trubisky are developing a little bit of rapport. He caught a touchdown yesterday. The other guy is Austin Traylor for the Denver Broncos. AJ Derby was put on IR. Actually, he wasn't put on IR. He got hurt, then he got cut. And Jeff Heuerman isn't playing, so he's the one just getting targets on the Broncos. It's a low upside play, but he should see between 4 and 6 targets a week. If you play in a 16-man PPR, he's available. Put it that way. Not the highest upsides in the world, obviously, but people that are getting targets in offenses and at tight end, sometimes that's all you need. Like that random.
I want to own Seals and Croft.
Oh, Hall and Oates on the Cardinals?
Hall and Oates. Where Seals and Croft is the better old-timey rock joke, for sure. Go with Hall and Oates.
So, Ricky Seals Jones is the guy's name, Blaine Gabbert's best friend.
I have to admit, I had never heard of him before yesterday.
I had never heard of him either.
And we're in the top 99 percentile of people who follow and watch football. I've never heard of this guy.
Well, the way that I think of it, generally speaking, if you have a hyphen in your name, you're a loser and you're no good. So there's already one tight end who has a hyphen in their name, and he's been pretty good this year, so there can't be 2. So just don't worry about Seals and Croft.
What about Mike Sims Walker?
Yeah, how did that work out?
Yeah, good for a year or so.
Yeah, and then he was the one guy who had a hyphen who was any good, then he was gone.
Was Maurice Jones-Drew not a hyphen?
I don't know if he had a hyphen or not. Let's see. Maurice Jones-Drew. Yes, he did have a hyphen. So he
won a rushing title one year. So.
Yeah, so he had the hyphen title. Like I said, only one of them can be good at a time. And this might go across all sports because Michael Kidd-Gilchrist is terrible too. Willie Cauley-Stein, terrible.
It's like the opposite of the Sith, where there must always be two. In this one, there must only be one.
Like Highlander.
Yes, like Highlander.
Streaming quarterbacks for the week. It's a good week for streaming quarterbacks. I really like Jacoby Brissett against Tennessee. If people haven't figured it out, Tennessee may have the worst secondary in the league.
Oh, I don't know. I think the Raiders have something to say about that.
So it's close. Your two AFC championship teams from the preseason both have two of the worst defenses in the league.
That's a problem.
Yeah, that's going to be tough. That's why Jacksonville is going to end up winning more games than Tennessee. And maybe Garion was right all along that Marcus Mariota sucks.
Well, it's a shame that he can't take his victory lap because he will have earned it. Because I would have been mocking him while my voice went hoarse in the earlier parts of the year when Mariota was playing pretty decently.
Well, Garion said he might be able to come on the show under the alias of Marino Dolphins.
That would be great.
So I have Brissett at number 1 against Tennessee, Keenum at Detroit on Thanksgiving, Rivers at Dallas on Thanksgiving, Tyrod, who I assume is starting. I don't know that for sure because the Bills are morons. They might just start Jay Peterman again, but he's at Kansas City. Kansas City's defense, not very good. Andy Dalton at home against Cleveland. Matt Moore, who I think is going to start over Jay Cutler right now, who suffered a concussion on Sunday. And do you know what I always say about concussions, Tim?
Tell the truth?
Tell the truth! That movie is always on HBO, and I go to tune it in just hoping that scene comes on. It never happens.
That's too bad.
Tell the truth.
Keenum and Rivers should be picked up because don't most people play in a must-play players on Thanksgiving leagues?
Weirdly enough, that rule was an unofficial rule in our league.
I know.
Well, the worst part is we don't have Tony Romo to play on Thanksgiving anymore. He must have, per game, the most fantasy points by far of any player ever on Thanksgiving.
Barry Sanders might have more.
Tell the truth.
But yeah, Romo would have to be in the conversation.
Romo just loved throwing for 5 TDs on Thanksgiving every year. It was great.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I mean, when you play every year, the Lions rarely have anybody good. I mean, he was by himself.
I feel like Megatron had some big Thanksgiving games.
I'm sure that he did, and I'm sure we're forgetting a couple that he did, yeah.
So, Matt Moore, if he plays at New England, I don't love this, but New England's defense over the past month has been pretty good, and they've been shutting down quarterbacks.
It certainly has been.
How did they figure that out?
Well, because they have one of the most intelligent coaches to ever blow a whistle. You know, people always say, oh, you always want your head coach to be offensive, blah, blah, blah. No, you don't. You want a defensive head coach. Bill Belichick, Nick Saban, they prove that when push comes to shove, you want a head coach who's defensive because to fix a defense, I think, is more critical than fixing an offense. Because defense, anyway, I just think they have incredibly smart coaches. They know what they're doing, and Belichick is a wonder. So that's how they do it.
I don't know if I'd throw Nick Saban into the great defensive minds conversation. Maybe he's a pretty good defensive player recruiter.
No, in terms of coach, like he's the best college coach of our lifetime, and Belichick's the best NFL coach of our lifetime.
But I don't like how great. I would actually contend that Chip Kelly's the best college coach that we've seen.
No, I don't think so. I mean, he won 0, and I love Chip Kelly.
Sure, but in college is far more about recruiting than actually coaching. And Chip Kelly was able to do it with a bunch of nobodies, and he just put a system in place that worked.
Well, I don't know.
Wait, what's Alabama's system? Go get the best players. They have the number 1 draft pick, and then they have the number 2 draft pick, and then picks 1 through 20. I'll go to Alabama.
I don't know that I can think of a single number 1 pick from Alabama.
No, I mean, when players are recruited out of high school, they get all the best picks. It's like they have the first 20 picks of the draft.
Yeah, okay, that's a fair point.
It's tough to be bad when that's the situation.
But in terms of in-game coaching, Saban does put together a pretty smart defensive system.
And offensive systems, like when he hired Lane Kiffin.
Hey, they won a national championship with Lane.
Because they have all the best players.
Okay, not the best quarterbacks. But my point was that you get him or you have Belichick. Defensive, I like head coaches who are defensive because they have – I prefer the mindset. And so I think that's how they fixed it. Belichick knows what he's doing.
Do you think that Chip Kelly is going to go to UCLA or UCLA, as some people would say it, or Florida?
I I think that he'll probably go to the pros.
I think he'll go to UCLA. Seems like if you could make UCLA good, I mean, he likes the Pac-12 anyway. Why not? Just go hang in LA. It sounds like fun.
I think, I would understand that.
Like, no pressure. As long as you beat, like, USC, it doesn't matter what your record is.
Well, but that's tough. I mean, very few teams can do that. I prefer Chip Kelly in the pros, I think, as an offensive coordinator somewhere. Like, if let's say, McDaniel takes the head coaching job somewhere this year, as he may, he'd be a perfect OC in New England.
I don't know about that. I don't think that McDaniels is leaving New England.
He might not, but if the right job opened up, like if the Indianapolis job opened up, he'd be crazy not to take it.
Sure, but I don't know if he'd be first on that list to get the Indianapolis job. Could you imagine if Pagano's not fired?
Well, I mean, I'm beginning to think that McAdoo might not get fired.
Would you even want to coach the Giants? That seems like a no-win situation.
For the amount of money that you'd get paid, yes, I think I would.
I mean, you would, but if you were someone who was worried about your future as a head coach, like, it seems like whoever their next coach is going to be bad as well, and then Eli will leave, and then you'll have, like, a rebuilding coach?
Sounds like a spot for Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher can come in and drag them to 6-10?
I mean, I'm beginning to think that we may go through 17 weeks and no coach will be fired till the day after the season.
That's kind of crazy.
Because if they were going to fire McAdoo, he'd have been fired by now. They were going to fire Hugh Jackson. They'd have fired him by now. Like, I don't see a firing. Now, of course, I'm sure this podcast won't be 2 minutes old and someone will have gotten fired. But I just don't see anyone getting fired.
Well, I think it's because you keep calling for everyone to be fired that no one can be fired.
Someone needs to get fired.
I think you need to get fired.
It should be Todd.
You're fired!
Oh.
Jameis may or may not play this week. Probably not. He has a shoulder injury.
Why would they put him out there? Their season's over.
Well, because he gets into trouble when he's not on the field.
Well, but there was a teammate who alleges that whatever the alleged thing happened didn't happen.
He was the same. Wasn't he the same teammate he had at Florida State who alleged the exact same thing?
It may have been. I shouldn't speak on the issue because I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I think so.
All right. Streaming defenses for the week. Number 1, Pittsburgh is weirdly available in a bunch of leagues. They're at home playing Green Bay. That's a top 10 DVOA defensive line up against a bottom 10 offensive line. So that'd be the number 1 if they're out there, but they're not available in a ton of leagues. Number 2, another top 10 DVOA defensive line versus a bottom 10 offensive line. The Carolina Panthers at your Jumbo Jets, Tim.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think the Panthers are going to win. I think the Jets are going to kill them.
Okay, good to know. So just go, maybe I'll move Carolina to number 1. Cincinnati against Cleveland. Chargers at Dallas. Now, obviously, this depends on the health situation of Dallas's offensive line. But if they're not at full strength, you might want to play teams against Dallas's offensive line because it ain't no good no more.
Makes perfect sense to me. I can have them higher. I think I might have them at 2.
Well, I mean, this is sort of a situation. I mean, you don't think the Carolina is going to get to Josh McCown, but
I think the Chargers have a better chance of getting to the Cowboys than the Panthers do against the Jets. Yes.
Well, I think it depends on the health of the offensive line.
I could see a multiple. I could see at least. I can envision 1 or 2 defensive scores on Thursday.
So you're just trying to curse the Chargers?
I'm not trying to curse the Chargers. I don't care how well they do or how poorly they do. I have nothing against them.
Listen, if Tyron Smith is back, then I think it's a significant upgrade for the offensive line, a significant downgrade for the Chargers defense. And if that's the case, then they're still a fine stream. But if Dallas can start posting points again and protect Dak, then they're not going to be as good as Carolina or Cincinnati.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to post points. So.
Okay. You sure about that?
Yeah. I don't think they're going to. As long as Zeke's gone, they're not going to do anything.
That's been the problem. Zeke hasn't been there?
Well, when Zeke hasn't been there, they've been bad. I mean, he does seem to be an important contributor. He's their best offensive player. When he's not there,
I'm starting to think that Tyron Smith is their best offensive player because they can't protect their quarterback without him.
I mean, he's very important. He's very important as well, but I think they miss Zeke too much.
Okay. Then I go Washington against the Giants on Thanksgiving. Oakland against Denver. Just stream against Brock. Just tends to turn out well. And Arizona at home against Blake Bortles. And Jacksonville, I don't love it, but they're widely available. And, stream against Blake Bortles is never a bad thing, right?
Agreed.
And that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. I would like to thank Tim Andergust.
Tim Andergust.
For being on the line. And you're going to stick around and do some game previews with me?
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, that's good to hear. You can follow Tim on Twitter at TimOnDaCust.
It's at TimAnderson87. I am the Twitter cognoscenti.
So you can catch him on the Thanksgiving Day special where we break down the games. Ben Raza will be on there as well, breaking down the Draftkings slate, the 3-game mini slate for the day. Plus, Tim will be back with Feinberg on Thursday to break down the rest of the games. That'll be nice. It's like having 6 teams on bye. Maybe the show will be a bit shorter than 2 hours.
That's what you think.
Yeah, well, maybe you'll have a better list this week.
It's not a list. I'm not going to spoil it, but I have something good cooked up for this week.
It better be better than what you had cooked up last week, because that was bad.
Okay, fine.
Are you done with lists? Are lists finished?
Lists aren't finished, but this week will not be a list.
Okay. You can follow me on Twitter at ThePME. And remember, subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play for all the audio versions uncut and uncensored. Same for the video versions up on the Draftkings YouTube page. Hope you had one of those winning weeks like a lot of people ended up having. Shout out again to Jeff Bergerson for his giant week. And shout out to me for picking Austin Cook 90-1 and filling my paid off Christmas. And that's all you can really ask for when you're betting on golf. Anyway, I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in week 12. I'll see you next time.